Good morning, friends. So, happy Canada Day. I slept in today. No work. Yay. Always welcome the day off in the middle of the week. So you work 2 days, you have day off, you another have 2 days, and great. So we're gonna start with the bike. Then I'm gonna set it up everything and we do leg, chest and shoulders. And then plank and hang and yeah, but let's eat this elephant piece by piece. Let's start with the bike. So as I mentioned before, this is program is Switzerland series. It's Tour de France. We did a climb 3 days after we did intervals, and today, because I don't know, like if you do it every single day, you follow the program in. But because I do 3 times a week, today is a easy ride. So, nevertheless, if it's too easy, I'm gonna increase intensity, and it's about half an hour. We are going to be nice and warm for main workout anyhow. So don't you worry, gonna be nice and warm. Okay, okay, okay. Resistance 10, just warming up.
Welcome back, guys. I'm your trainer, Tommy Ribs. We are here in the beautiful country of Switzerland, just off the shore of Lake Geneva. We're back on Route 46. We're going to finish off this week with an easy recovery ride. We're going to shoot for right about 30 minutes. Let's do it. Okay, so just like the last time, first 5 minutes, we're going to start out nice and easy as a warm-up. So if you feel tired, if you feel fatigued, if you feel maybe a little bit of
Incline 1, resistance
achiness or
10.
soreness from these last 3 days of climbing, then
I did this
that
workout.
just means you're doing it right. So
I did
this
it.
workout is important to go nice and slow. Keep it at a light intensity. We're going to help flush out our muscles, get some blood flowing, and see some beautiful places along the way. So these first 5 minutes, in terms of cadence, just do whatever's comfortable. So that may be a slow grind.
Incline 2,
That might
resistance
be a
10.
faster spin for you. Whatever you find is most comfortable, just to get the blood flowing in your legs. For these warm-ups, you know, if I'm out in the morning on a long ride in a heavy training block, I don't even look at it for the first, sometimes even 10 or 15 minutes. I just get on my bike and start moving. Just go through the motions. And then slowly, you find that your body starts to warm up. Feel-good chemicals in your brain start to release. Start to be produced in higher quantities. Start to circulate in higher concentrations. Serotonin, dopamine, all these chemicals that provide a sense of contentment, kind of a brightness, so you're thinking a positive lens, and then also an exhilaration when it comes to training like this. Bonjour, bonjour. All right.
In resistance 11. Last time I did this workout. I know because I remember everything.
All right, so remember some of the cues that we've talked
But
about
there is
before
some
in terms
sort
of
of
posture. You want to keep a
glitch
neutral spine.
in a
So So you don't want to be too flex, you don't want to be
In
too
the
extended,
iFit
just
program.
nice and neutral.
Because it shows like I didn't do this workout, but I
We
did
are
it last
here
time.
In the wine country,
Exactly.
just outside of Geneva. So you'll see, like
We
we
live
did
in
on
the
our very
matrix.
first workout,
It's a glitch in the
you'll see
matrix.
lots and lots of different crops, lots of fruit trees, lots of vineyards,
I found
lots
it.
of livestock and farm
I
animals.
found finally a
It's
glitch in
an
the matrix.
amazing place. Alright, so when you're on a road in a situation like this, where you're going over a bridge, even if you have the right of way, even if it's legal for you to ride that white line or even be to the left of it, the common sense thing to do is to stay as far out of the road as possible. So sometimes cyclists will get really self-righteous about their rights as cyclists, which is all, well and good, but dead is dead, and if you get hit by a car and you're dead, you don't have an insurance policy on that. So, it's always best to, like you said, the very first workout, just don't get dead. So that means you gotta, put your ego aside and stay to the right side of the white line, as far away off the road as possible, and that's probably the smart thing to do. Alright, so we're moving right up on around 5 minutes of this. So I want you to focus in on shooting for a cadence of right around 90 RPM. So
Incline
cadence,
3, resistance
RPMs,
9.
rotations per minute. That's the
RPM, target
revolutions
RPM
of
90.
one leg per minute as we're riding. So on flats, that target that we're going for is right around 90. And then when we get on the climbs, that target, is right around 70. On climbs, anywhere between 60 and 80 is considered within a pretty good range. And then when we're on flats, anywhere between 80 and 100 is usually pretty good.
Incline 5, resistance 8.
Alright, so this is the route to Lausanne and also to Morges.
Have to make a note.
And careful this bump. Alright, so now up this little climb, if you want to jump out of the saddle for a bit, give your backside a rest. That's never a bad thing. Sometimes you might find if you're tired, especially after 3 consecutive days of climbing, you may find that the effort that you expend is not so great, but you may find just a burning in your legs. A lot of times, what that is just metabolic waste.
Flat 11.
That waste accumulates in your muscles. It's just a natural byproduct of, the physiological processes that we go through when we're climbing. So, if you think about just like, a typical engine in a vehicle, there's an exhaust system. So anytime we're doing work, there's always going to be emissions, and same thing is true when we're, working out our bodies, our different physiological processes. There's going to be waste that comes out. And so the way that we pump that out is through our blood. Our blood is filtered through our kidneys, and then that excretes the different waste products that we don't need. And so when you feel that burning, that dull ache in your legs, especially after a big, for example, that 3 days of consecutive climbing we've been doing, the best way to work on that is to get out and just move. Get that blood flowing. Hydration is also really important, so make sure you're drinking enough fluids. Adequate nutrition is important, so make sure you're getting enough carbohydrates to fuel your pursuit, and then enough protein to come in and repair your body. All right, so remember to use restraint if you can. So we're shooting for no more than 4 out of 10 on that rate of perceived exertion scale. That means that if you were riding with a friend,
Incline
you'd
to
be able to have a
resistance stand.
conversation. If you wanted to, you could breathe through your nose comfortably when you were riding. You may feel burning in your legs, but that's not necessarily it's not necessarily because of your aerobic capacity, which is being taxed. That sometimes has to do with just muscular fitness. So if you feel like you can still breathe easily or talk, but you feel it burning in your legs, just go ahead and try to push through that. So it's important to be able to differentiate pain that you feel in your muscles, muscular fatigue and pain, from effort. A lot of times, there's a confusion there, but effort is based off of the amount of energy you're exerting. So usually what caps that off is your aerobic capacity. So the way that we can tell if we're taxing that is based off of our breathing and our heart rate. So just keep a look at those things and realize that there is a difference. So Geneva is one of the most well-known cities in Switzerland, and part of it has to do with the way that it's placed right at the base of the Alps, but then also it rests on Lake Geneva. So because of Lake Geneva, like I mentioned, there's just incredible weather throughout most of the year, and that allows for really great agricultural opportunities, as we're able to see like in these vineyards. So there's a specific type of wine. I mentioned this a little bit in the very first workout that we did when we were in this area. There's a specific type of wine, which is Swiss wine, and it's only produced in this area, and it's based off of traditions and practices which were developed by monks back in the 1200s. So Christian monks developed these practices, and these
Incline to resistance stand.
the farming practices and the different specific ways that they terrace, and the way that that specifically affected the area, the culture, the way it's been based on the linguistics, like we talked a little bit about in the very first workout. That linguistic tradition, which has the ability to shape people's cultures and shape their view of reality, it's been something that has been so important to this region and so unique that recently
Incline on
this
resistance
region
stand.
here on Lake Geneva it became a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it's protected, and what that's done is it's allowed the farmers who take care of these vineyards in this area to not have to fight so much against the threat of urbanization, the threat of destroying these vineyards and this farmland, to be able to build more houses and more buildings. And so these areas are protected. That's something that international law is really important to Swiss people. As we mentioned before, there's this huge notion of defense and political neutrality that's made Switzerland in general and Geneva specifically a hub for resolving different conflicts that have taken place throughout the entire world. Switzerland was able to avoid World War I as well as World War II, as well as all the other major conflicts that have taken place, even though they have these superpowers that surround them and they're landlocked. And, some of that has had to do with the fact that they've been so influential in settings where arbitration was necessary. And so much of that happens in Geneva. So, interesting fact about Geneva. So there is a facility underground, which is underneath Geneva. It goes across the Swiss-French border. It's known as CERN, C-E-R-N, and it stands for, it's a European acronym, it's a French acronym, but basically the way it translates is the European Confederation for Nuclear Research. Underground, there's these huge colliders. They're called colliders. Think of that as like, in terms of these giant tunnels. And within these tunnels, some of them are 27 kilometers. That's the circumference of them. These giant tunnels. They're used for nuclear research that goes into particle physics. And so within these colliders, it's exactly what it sounds like. The nuclear physicists are able to collide different particles. So protons, electrons, neutrons. You might remember in 2006, there was this big story that took place. The claim was that there were neutrinos, which are actually smaller than neutrons. Neutrinos that were actually faster than the speed of light, that traveled faster than the speed of light. In 2006, that made headlines. I remember, maybe it was 2011. It was 2011. I remember specifically because I was in school, I was taking physics classes, and that was a big deal. The reason it was a big deal is because they thought they discovered particles that could move faster than the speed of light. Turns out, even though these facilities are top-notch, there was a little bit of a glitch in the GPS systems, and the neutrinos don't travel faster than the speed of light, but all of that took place there at CERN. CERN is actually the place where the World Wide Web was invented. So even though Al Gore claims it, it actually is something that took place in Switzerland, in Geneva, and it's something that is happening every day, literally under the feet of the people that live in Western Geneva. So pretty amazing stuff. They're at the forefront of trying to discover the different properties of matter and even what's known as antimatter. So they've been able to isolate something known as antihydrogen. So it's essentially the absence of hydrogen. They were able to isolate antihydrogen for 14 minutes, which I studied physics some in my day, but that's beyond my comprehension. I don't even know what that looks like, or what it doesn't look like, I guess. But anyway, all that stuff's happening in Geneva, and like I said, we're just outside of Geneva. Okay, so just like before, we want to make sure we're keeping our cadence right within that range. Shoot for right around 90. If you're between 80 and 100, you're all good. You probably feel that your body's been able to warm up quite a bit. Hopefully, if you have felt, some soreness and dull ache in your legs, that's starting
-212.
to fade. You've got that good old endurance grind going on right now. Still keep your effort nice and easy, so light intensity. No more than 4 out of 10 on that rate of perceived exertion. Keep that heart rate under 77% of your max. City. Wow, check this out, guys. This is amazing. So this is, you know, obviously you can see why this area has been so popular
Flat
throughout
11.
history, why so many celebrities and royalties and different influential artists and scientists and you know, just really great minds from so many ages have decided to come here, and some of them have stayed. Some of my very favorite authors, writers, and poets have, you know, have spent time out here and lived out here. T.S. Eliot, he stayed here. He was receiving work from a psychiatrist in the 1920s, and he composed some of his best work when he was out here, as well as Hermann Hesse. Hermann Hesse, he wrote the book Siddhartha. He wrote, you know, tons of other works as well. He spent time out here with his wife in the 20s. Rousseau spent time here. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Alright, so let's keep moving. These guys, check this out. It's pretty cool.
Minus 111. Flat 11.
Alright guys, so these recovery rides, like these easy rides that we do, especially on the front end and on the tail end of these big consecutive climbs that we've been doing, these are so important. A lot of times people skip this stuff because they think it's too easy or they don't need it. They don't give their body the chance to rest.
111.
And they just keep trying to grind day after day after day. What people don't realize is that it's so detrimental. This is like the bread and butter. This is where the changes take place. This is where your body learns you know, to be able to grow stronger, to adapt, to make these positive changes that our bodies go through. So, like I've talked about before, and I'll continue to stress, you really just have to trust the process on this, especially because we're doing these 3 consecutive back-to-back climbs. Even though we're not doing crazy high intensity, we're keeping those at a moderate intensity, it builds, and that fatigue is a cumulative fatigue that goes from day to day to day. You gotta really take advantage of these opportunities to rest and recover.
Flat
And,
11.
you know, for a long time I've believed that it's really not possible to overtrain. It's only possible to under-recover. So your body can handle as much work as you put in as long as you're willing to put in just as intense of a recovery interval after you're done. You know, really giving yourself the opportunity to grow and adapt, get stronger, fitter, more efficient. So activity is a part of that. This light intensity active recovery is a part of it. Another part obviously is sleep. Another huge part is reducing stress from your life, making sure that your nutrition is on par. Alright, so let's safely cross this road.
Flat 11.
Alright, so we're going under one of these bridges. Every time we do this, it makes me nervous. It makes me wonder if there's explosives inside it. That's like a legitimate fight, guys, that I talked about. Where, whoo, all of these bridges, all of these tunnels have have explosives
Incline to resistance 10.
inside them so that they can be detonated in case there's any type of invasion. Wonder if anybody's ever pressed the wrong button though, you know, like that. That would make me nervous. Alright, shoulders down. See, I gotta keep reminding myself, when I get tired, I have a tendency to pull my traps up, elevate my shoulder blades, so I gotta keep my shoulders down, stay nice and relaxed. Try and keep my back neutral. So as we talked about before,
111.
in terms of the way that we define work scientifically, so work is defined as energy directed towards an object which causes displacement or movement of that object. So in terms of work for us, we are that object, and the energy that we're exerting or directing towards that object is through our legs, through our glutes, and
Just under 5
as
minutes
we
and we're
move
done.
forward, we're displacing that object. So, you know, sometimes people think that there needs to be these really sophisticated, fancy, kind of special workouts. And a lot of times, especially as you're building up your base, building strength, developing consistency, strengthening different muscle groups, different neurological systems, increasing the fitness of your blood. A lot of this just takes place from just good old-fashioned work. So putting forth energy to displace or to move an object. And all of that is compounded. It's multiplied
Minus 111.
exponentially if we have to increase elevation. So, you know, if we're working against gravity. So that really is the key to this King of the Mountain series. So, just
Incline to
putting forth
resistance
work
10.
to move our bodies up these mountains and, you know, fighting gravity in that sense, or over these flats and fighting wind resistance. So it doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. You just get out, you put in work consistently, day after day after day after day. That really is the secret to all of this. All right, going under this bridge. No explosions, we're good.
Incline to resistance 10.
All
I
right.
just have to
Got a
stand up
little
for
bit of
2
a ride,
seconds.
So I'm hopping out of the saddle, mostly because my backside is sore.
Yeah, my bum also sore.
Okay, guys, this has been an amazing
From this
workout.
ride.
Driving through
Flat 11.
this incredible vineyard
Just under 3 minutes.
of Switzerland, just outside Lake Geneva. We're gonna come back here. We're gonna finish up another time
Minus
in
212.
this same Route 46. So make sure you come back for that because it just gets better, I promise. Oh man, how cool is this? Woo! Car up! Bumpy road!
Incline for resistance 8.
Man, I love this. This is so diverse. Like we're out in those
2
plains,
minutes.
through those crops. We got mountains, we got lakes, we got thick forests. It's really, really easy to see why people come to Switzerland and never leave. Alright, keep climbing up just a bit. Keep that intensity light like we talked about.
Incline 7, resistance 6.
Climb up to the top of this peak. Nice and easy, okay? That cadence will drop. Keep that resistance consistent for both legs. Just nice and nimble. Light as you can. And on these steep sections of climbs, your cadence may drop way, way down. And like we talked about before, that really is okay.
Flat 11.
Alright, we got some kind of citrus fruit.
Minus
going on these vines
111.
here. Let's go check it out. Alright guys. Oh man, that was
30
amazing.
seconds left. 30.
Congrats, thank you so much for joining me on this. Looks like we got apples. Amazing. Okay, so make sure you do what we talked about before. Make sure you take the opportunity to optimally recover. So hydration, nutrition, all of those things. Make sure you come back and join me on the next one. We've got so much more to see in this beautiful country. I'm Tommy Rivs. I'll see you next time.
Ah, Tommy. Oh man. Okay. 7:16. That is so funny. It's keep coming back on the same workout. Ha! Isn't it funny? This is a glitch. For some reason, it doesn't register that I did it. Ah, okay. Okay. Ah, jeez. I forgot to stop my watch. Okay, let me set it up everything. Let me set up everything and we'll do legs, chest and shoulders. Okay, it's not over.